Hello, everyone. Sorry for our delay. Hopefully, we will manage to have our chat into 45 minutes. The topic of this conversation is digital skills in a connected society. And without further ado, I would open the floor to Mr. Sturza to present us an ecosystem, a success story of building a technological ecosystem. And then we will open the discussion towards how we can scale that. What are the resources needed in order to replicate the success stories in other regions? What are the financing mechanisms in which we can help the increase of the digital skills? And we rather follow the previous panel, considering the fact that we are discussing about digital interaction between citizens and public institutions, but we don't have currently a very high number of citizens carrying basic digital skills. So, Mr. Sturza, your success story.
Thank you very much. First of all, I want to mention, as a member of the board of Aspen Institute, high level of our discussion, and of course I'm a little bit upset of number of the people in the room. But I want to congratulate the team. The level of panelists and discussion is very high. In the beginning, when I was invited to speak about technology, I was prepared to speak very technologically about new tendency, about new technology, about online, about intelligence, about disruption technology, about our relation with big companies like Apple, Google, and all these kind of things. But when I start to see our the building which hosts us, of course, I was curious to see what means Fabrica di Cultura. And I discovered this is pretty similar what we start or we try to do in Cluj. 4 years ago, I bought a factory, old factory, furniture factory, and first my idea was to try to reopen the production of furniture, and in the very short and after very short due diligence, technical due diligence with my friends from Italy, we practically realized no way for us, and we start to think what to do in Cluj. Far from the center of the city, in the industrial sites, and with very boring, environment. And first our idea was to build a Fabrica di Cultura, something like this, to have a place for artists. But this is very far from our business plan. We want to do money finally, not just fun from our hectares of industrial site. And in the beginning, our sites look like this. It was a pure industrial, site with a lot of hectares of space. Our advantage in Cluj was the main building. It was built after Second World War and looks pretty nice and relatively strong. But inside it was disaster like this. And now today looks like this. Idea behind of all the businesses, there is some history, so some povești, da? And my idea was to build ecosystem of IT, like I'm seeing in Silicon Valley, in Google, in Apple, in other things. I travel many times around the Silicon Valleys from San Jose to San Francisco, and I realized never in Romania can succeed to build Silicon Valley, because this is separate questions. It's a separate story. It's about innovation, and Silicon Valley, it's a place when the innovation meet with money. It's not Romania, it's a case, but I want to try to build a place when the people are incidentally or accidentally meet each other, and from this accident the ideas come. And we invest purely speculative from the beginning, and we refurbish this old factory in the real ecosystem, which looks today like this. We also have some relatively new buildings rebuilt, a lot of grass, a lot of place for these accidental meetings, because we have 20,000 square meters of buildings, of office space, which is all A-class and excellent in energy, but at the same time we have more than 35,000 square meters of grass, place for sports, Even we have inside of this looks maybe a little bit industrial, but people like this space. We have, of course, different kind of design inside, but also we invest a lot of money in technical support of this space, because it's not questions about climate or some. We speak about communication. We speak about electricity supply. Of course, we build a lot of common space, restaurants. We build public space when the people are coming. We have like in Silicon Valleys, inside of the site, we have a grill place when the people are coming and meet each other. We organize a lot of sport events. We have an international conference. We have a very unconventional working space for co-working inside. Today, inside of this, just after 3 years of when we start to rebuild this place, we have more than 2,000 people and more than, this is sport facilities. We have more than 20 residents, including the biggest name. New entry, it's Microsoft, Arvato, Siemens with research. All the companies in the research and development, all of them are leaders, and they work together with NASA, with airspace. The most important part of this ecosystem, I think, it's our accelerator. We have a program of accelerators of a lot of international mentors, experts, which are coming, and I promise to these young teams to bring them and to put them in the pipeline to Silicon Valley. And this year, so our first companies was practically invited to come to Silicon Valley to continue research and development. When I tell this to you, this short story, I want to mention this dimension of how technology can change community. And this project, in the relatively, it's industrial part of Cluj, changed a lot face of this region and this community. We also have a Roma surround us, and this was the beginning. It was a problem with our new entry. Well, you have a Roma. Now they are very integrated in our culture. They play in our ground. They come to our restaurants, and nobody is upset about this. And what this technological park means for Romania is brings us a level of technology in Romania. It's not more call center, it's not more service center. All the companies work in research and development. was in close connection with the international community. This is our example how, I don't know how many people in this room are from the business, how the nebunia unui om, it's transferred in reality in just in a few years. But of course, to do all these things, you need to have good stomach and a lot of money.
Usually when we talk about ecosystems, we talk about the people building the ecosystem, the people part in the ecosystem. We talk about the flows of knowledge, that is innovation, the financial flows, which are extremely important, and that's the money that you were mentioning. But we also talk about the goal, the idea, the objective of the ecosystem. I would shift the discussion towards Andrei, who carries, at least from my point of view, two sources of knowledge. The knowledge about the financial flow and the knowledge about the digital literacy through the certificate, through the ECDL. That is the financial and the people and the skills, those two parts of the ecosystem. How do you start to build an ecosystem? Which is the first step? Mr. Sturza mentioned the chair and the location and the idea and the madness, the dream of a very targeted and resourceful dreamer. Where do you think we should start?
Wow. Let me just say how impressed I am by the achievement that you've managed. Where do we start? Well, I'm not sure how many of you know about ECDL. ECDL is far more basic, because what it is essentially a computer literacy certification. And the origin story in my case, in our case for ECDL, because like Mr. Sturza and his son, I work very closely with my father. Well, it all started with a really bad sinus infection. We were trying to find, so we were on a delegation trying to find a franchise that was called, at that point, the Future Kids Model. And I remember going to Portugal with my dad and sort of trying to visit one of their large international conferences. And this was an education program that was a private, high-level education for high schoolers in order to learn how to use their computer. It was focused on programming. And I got ill. I got very ill during that trip, a sinus infection, and I had to miss some of the meetings. And because of that, we stayed a bit longer, and during the extra day, we found out about something that was much more basic, much more, if you'd like, simple and much more reliable, which was, rather than paid-for education, it was a standard of testing. And it was during that same conference that we met the people from Ireland who had the foresight to come up with the ECDL Foundation, which is a model that's distributed through existing infrastructure. So in many ways, it's exactly the opposite of finding a location. We use existing high schools with the teachers that already teach them, and we try and basically not apply the training, but get to apply the exams. So we try and bring in a level of qualifications that students should be able to reach in order to pass this exam. And just by bringing this standard in about 600 high schools in Romania, we've had hundreds, or actually a few million children, or actually a few million participants who have taken the ECDL exam. This doesn't ensure high-level research and development potential, but it ensures basic literacy and a basic level of skills. And we've built this distribution platform together with local government, together with existing educational institutions, which, as you know, is not a very easy thing to do. And most recently, as of 2010, It's part of the baccalaureate exam. It's an alternative for a digital skills qualification, so high school students can pass the ECDL exam instead of sitting their existing test. What's interesting about this is how it's now evolving, because as a distribution platform, you start with something very basic, something very reliable, something that can be taught in any high school that has a computer. But then you move on from that and you come up with new add-ons. You know, you start teaching, you start having a standard that you have to reach for, say, AutoCAD or architectural or drawing software, design software. And from there you move on to 3D printing. And that for us has been the most recent breakthrough, in that we designed a course and a high-level qualification that can be taught in most schools that has to do with preparing the basics of 3D printing. And we did this in partnership with Enevo. Shout out to the guys from Enevo, because it's very, very difficult to come up with, you know, with something that's both reliable, it can be taught quite easily, but also is a stepping stone for the future of what will be needed for the digital skills of the future, basically the requirements of tomorrow's employers, rather than just basic computer Word and Excel, which is how ECDL started. So there's a lot of trial and error in this. You have to rely on existing, infrastructure, but you're addressing a very large number of people. And that's the alternative. Like that's what ECDL is about. And it's after all these years, it's still growing, and we have a very dedicated team, and we're trying to come up with more things that we can teach to as many people as possible.
Basically, I get out of the two presentations, which apparently are two opposite examples of success, I get a word, and that's the word that I would like to build upon: standards. Both Mr. Sturza and Andrei have mentioned the idea of a standard that you have noticed that worked in other markets, in other regions, and that you wanted to implement here. So how do we replicate such a success story, like the ecosystem in Cluj? How do we replicate it in other places by transmitting those standards without necessarily the madness of a person, without the leadership of a person driving that?
We need to believe, and we need to follow the standards. I remember I discussed with Nick Jordan in Halili Carol in Bucharest. He and his team wants to change this place for something fun and interesting, and they know us about our experience. And in the beginning, I asked him if he have at least 5 million to remove everything from this paysage. Of course, all these dreams needs a serious approach. First of all, about the design, about technical execution, about very professional approach, because from the beginning we decide to be A-class, excellent in energy efficiency, and we follow this strategy. Second, of course, we not invent something special. We just spent few weeks in Silicon Valley. We've been inside of the Google. We've been inside, we use this because our ecosystem, my ecosystem, is a little bit larger than Cluj. We have online retailer, maybe you know, Elephant.ro. We have IT companies. We have a partnership with Google and Apple. And I use this inside to go to the United States and to be inside. And I tell you, the most interest stories was in Apple inside, because maybe you know the chief colorist of Apple, it's a Romanian guy, Domnul Marcu. He left the country in 19th, but it was one of the closest allies of Steve Jobs. And he bring me inside of Apple, and we see this culture. Even the grill we build according with Apple standards. We have several different sections for different people, for different race, different religion, and we didn't invent something. We just replicate the success story of all leaders. Of course, there is a lot of place in Romania which can, replicate our models. First destination, I think, and we think about Iași. Da? Iași, it's 4 or 5 years behind the Cluj. They do very basic things in technology. This is a service center, this is a loan, classical loan, like in textile. Today they put codes, but in the 4 or 5 years they will become higher. Maybe Timișoara, maybe Arad, maybe not. I'm not so sure about Bucharest, because Bucharest is so arrogant in this sense, and they want something special. Education, of course. We have daily hundreds of kids inside these sites, in our co-working space, in our accelerating, we have something like computer land, and this is very important for us, for me. I have my own experience with junior achievement, maybe you know. This program in Moldova, hundreds of thousands of people, we changed the life of these people. And come back to questions about knowledge, about skills. I think new generation, this is a native for the people, like languages, like all other skills. We don't need to spend some efforts or money to educate it for basic skills to use technology of computers. It's a basic. What we need to re-educate the people a little bit higher level, because today I think in Romania it's hundreds of thousands of people which work in the fields which they are not comfortable, and and now it's relatively easy. There is a program, 3 months program to produce programmers. And we also have a school in Republic of Moldova, which now have hundreds of people, which in the 3 months for special program we educated relatively good programmers, which has basic skills to work in this industry. But to dream about to re-educate all the country, to give some special skills to use the internet, I don't think this is realistic, and we need this.
Andrei?
No, I just wanted to underline the fact that you have both, through the Sturza Family Foundation, have given so much educational grants. So you have both the high end with the accelerator and the low end with trying to get as many people to get digital skills. But no, I completely agree with you. If you don't have digital skills in today's world, it's almost as if you are a non-citizen. It comes to really, you're excluded from society, excluded from the possibility of further education. But I think I'm preaching to the choir. I think there isn't much disagreement about that, and especially not in this room. Now, where you have to have a different approach is that I'm convinced, as much of a libertarian as I am, that this is impossible to provide without the distribution statement, that is the distribution system that is government, whether it's local government, whether it's schools. You have to rely on that support. And as Roxana will probably say, Romania is doing quite badly when it comes to digital literacy. And that's not sustainable in the long run, because we cannot possibly be left out. This will have far-reaching consequences for many generations to come. So how we go from being, doing what everything that we're doing right now, everything that Mr. Sturza is doing by pushing private investment into as many, reaching as many people as possible, and then actually furthering higher level education, which was, by the way, in the panel before us, did you notice that was framed as a political statement, whether it was a left-wing thing or a right-wing thing? I disagree with that. And you have an example of how one person can do both right here.
Just a quick follow-up to Mr. Sturza's phrase regarding the project of bringing everyone to 100% basic digital skills. The only analysis on that in the European Union was made by UK, and they calculated how long it will take and how much it would cost to have all the population 100% at basic digital skills. And their answer was 2027, and it would take £875 million just for basic digital skills, using the internet, using a computer, and so on and so forth. And they are about 75% of the population right now having those skills. We are at 30%. So for us, it would mean a utopia, a huge investment to bring everybody there.
This is a mathematics, but I will tell you our experience. There is 7 million accounts in Facebook in Romania, 7 million. In our small retail online, we have more than 1 million unique visitors per day. 1 million women come mostly from 9 to 5 during their working day. This means it's penetrated. It's penetrated. I'm not so pessimistic about. If you remember about tickets, yes, air tickets. 5 years ago, it was, all of them, it was physical. Today, all it's electronic. I'm not, the situation, the life will push. I give you an example of our also example. In 2002, we introduced in one of the biggest, our industrial assets, obligatory application for job through email. And even for very basic things, muncitori și așa mai departe. And everybody said, well, you are crazy. How? Well, if these guys are not capable to go to internet cafe and to fulfill the form, it is not our guy. And we force, and until now, all my companies around the world, in Africa, in Latin America, now it's less, it's just in our region. But they are forced to fulfill all the hasher forms through internet, and this, disseminate some or eliminate some people which are not friendly with technology.
Building on that, and on the digital skills and digital literacy, and on this optimism, which is obviously necessary in our society, how do we bridge the gap between urban and rural?
With this program, UCTL, honestly speaking, besides this 1 million unique visitors per day, of course, 70%, 80% it's urban, and this is it's a big difference. But Romania has an advantage. Pretty well telecommunication system and a mobile system, which brings Wi-Fi, 4G, and all, and not relatively, really cheap one. We have a basic, we have a communication system, we have a telecom, we have a mobile system, we have which is very important, this hard, yes? We have this distribution system of smartphone, all this kind of thing which people need. But of course, rural and urban Romania, it's two different worlds. And even I just come back from expedition in Himalaya, and all the Nepalese, besides the level of education or of occupation, they are staying smartphones, and much more visible this is than in Romania.
It's true, yeah, to some extent in Romania as well. I can tell you some things that we've tried and have had mixed, well, some of the things we've tried and have failed. One of the things that we tried was having mobile internet cafes in trailers, moving from village to village and trying to do computer classes on the spot. That hasn't worked so well. We then tried to have distribution through, agents, people that would be paid for the number of people that they'd be able to get to and test. That didn't really work so well. So really, yeah, there's a huge difference between the villages and the urban centers. You've got to rely on what's already there. You've got to rely on the school teacher, on the support structure that is already in place. And that's been the only success in our experience. When you work with local schools, even if that means broadly investing in the computer infrastructure and taking over some of the investment that the government should have put in to bring computers to those schools, even if you do that, you really do have to rely on traditional distribution methods, at least for education. And that infrastructure is still there. On top of which, you do have an extremely high level of mobile phone use and penetration. It's over 100% in Romania. You have an extremely strong internet backbone, courtesy of years of somewhat over-investment. In the national grid has that fiber backbone, which is unique to Romania, which is why we get such high internet speeds. So you've got the tools in place, and you've got to use those tools to reach people. If you try and invent something new, something unique, you're more likely to fail than not when it comes to basic stuff like distribution. You've got to use what you already have.
We're almost always catching up to other European countries, to global best practices. Do we have a chance to become the leader in this topic of IT and digital skills, the high-end part? And I'm linking to the ecosystem presented at the beginning of our discussion.
It's hard to do. I remember I met with Bernd Horowitz. Maybe you know, this is one of the most famous in Silicon Valley venture capitalists, and I invite him to do something together in Romania. And he told me, what is your advantage? In Silicon Valley, the cost of one programmer is $270,000 per year. In Romania, is $70,000. In Vietnam, is $7,000. And this is a, equation if you speak about the same, but because honestly speaking, 98% of IT in Romania, it's not IT. It's a basic skill. We sell the minutes of the people which do some basic skill. We need to move from this to much add value product. And I promise to new entry companies like Siemens, they will find the people in Cluj, because this young generation was training in these companies for basic skills. They want much higher, much more interested job, even though the same salary, and they now immigrate from these companies. Why these Romanian companies or Romanian owners are not continue to invest in IT? They invest in hotels, in the vineyards. They are not believing in the capacity to build a new kind of the companies which is capable to deliver products with this add value. But this is a chance for Romanian people. I strongly believe, because I'm daily in discussing with these big sharks which wants brain from Romania, not just technical skill. This is a big chance. It's a unique chance for these hundreds of thousands of people which are in the industry to move to higher level of implication. An example in our technological park, all 20 residents are from research and development, not service company. This is important, and I'm confident, I am optimist about future IT, but of course size. Our biggest problem for our accelerator is our pipeline of the project. Last years we have 140 applications, and we just, finally decide to put in the program 7 companies. We have from United States, from Russia, from Moldova. But honestly speaking, this number of applicants does not means number of the good ideas, which is really interested for us to put in pipeline to accelerate. And our idea is we now have a much bigger ambition. We have 20 million fund in sense of pre-seeds, ventures, and we want to bring in Romania multicultural environment, to bring here from Belarus, from Ukraine, from Hungary, from Bulgaria, people which will create it not just national environment or ecosystem, international. And this is maybe from Vietnam, from Laos. We have people from Turkey, which are now very interested due to some security reason. I fully understand, but they are coming to work together with us with very high technical skills, work with us because they want to be inside of Europe. Now our next dream is to create a multinational, a multicultural environment in Romania. And this is the future of industry.
That's really impressive. And I mean, I can speak to having looked at this from a venture capital fund setup point of view, in the sense that the economics of it, you have to have a dream, because if you look at it from what's achievable in the lifetime of a fund, it doesn't work unless you have a lot of success. We've tried to set up a venture fund. We do private equity funds, as most people probably know, and it's been extremely difficult. But just to go back to what you've mentioned earlier about 98% of the IT industry in Romania not being actual IT, but being service providers, it's interesting how that creates a certain mindset. And I've spoken about this last night, but just to expand on that, the mindset is, if you are a team of programmers from school, people you trust, people you work with, you're not going to look for your own, you're not going to look to spend your time on your own idea. You're actually going to jump to look at what the next outsourcing opportunity might be, because that's what seems to pay in Romania. And that's something that you need to break the cycle for. You've got to look at what might make sense at an international level, even though everyone who succeeds around you seems to succeed from getting some outsourcing jobs or being rewarded for providing minutes, as you've said. And that's a hard pattern to break, and that seems to be the case from what I've seen in Romanian IT. The successful ones are not necessarily the ones that scratch their own itch, as it were. But I'm very optimistic that this is happening, and I think you're making this happen. I think that by focusing more people on the success of your company for its own sake, not for fulfilling a specific service need at that point in time, and you're going to see more and more people focusing on their own ideas, and that's what it's about.
One final question before opening the floor to our last 10 minutes of the panel. What's the biggest difficulty? Is it the mindset? Is it the lack of political will? Is it the lack of infrastructure in terms of skills, of people's skills? What would you consider to be the largest hurdle to tackle?
Honestly speaking, my biggest disappointment in Cluj is, tell you very honest and first time publicly, it's our relation with local authorities. We change a lot, Cluj and environment and everything, and this was private money, private initiatives, our risk. And of course, local authorities come to cut this red several times. But when we ask a bus stop, they answer us with, I have this letter from mayor of the Cluj. We are not capable to give for all the citizens the privilege to travel from home to the supermarket and something like this. And I remember when I've been in Cracovia and Berlin, because we are famous now, we've been invited, even in Korea, to share our project. 90% of budget in all the European famous centers of technology like Cracovia, Brno, which is similar of Cluj, 90% of the budget came from the state, local authority in Brussels. In our case, zero. We ask just a bus station because we have 2,000 people inside. And the answer was, noi nu putem să-i ducem pe toți locuitorii Clujului de acasă până la mall. We are mall. Thank you very much. This was more. I don't want to be recognized or to have, medals from the authorities, but I want just some formal implication, some, guys, what you are doing here, but we want to, finally, we decide, together with Siemens, to put some electrical bus. This like in Vienna, this small red bus. And they know, because you need to have to be a part of our city system of transportation, and we postpone at least our project with Siemens, I don't know, to put this electrical bus from us to some place in the center as a case study. And this is much, all other, it's money, stomach, and enthusiasm of the people.
Okay, questions from the audience?
Hi, I have a question. You mentioned that you are looking for support, especially if you are to work in literacy, helping people with information literacy. And I was wondering if in all your work you tried to partner with public libraries, because in Romania we had Biblionet, and in Moldova Novateca projects it's on its way. And both of those projects aim at transforming public libraries into local hubs for citizens to access information and develop their skills. In the United States, people who have to fill in work and their CVs to get jobs are doing that not in coffee shops, but in libraries. And so these resources are available. In a way, are different than a public education system. They are more free, and the access to them, it's more democratic. And so I was wondering if you run into them, if you thought about it, and if you didn't, will you consider that in the future?
We haven't, and I think those are very good projects, and I don't see why we haven't, and we'll consider it.
My project, it's a little bit more culture. We try to at least if you are a client of Elephant, we have a e-book, and we spend a lot of efforts and resources, at least in Romanian and Romanian languages, to have much as possible e-book and to put in the online free to the public.
Hello, I have a question for each of the panelists. So, Mr. Sturza, since the Silicon Valley is, of course, the model that we all look at, I also want to point that they have a very good connection with the universities, with Stanford, the University of California, and so on. So I would be curious to know, from your experience, how did you tackle this integration, and if you also went back to school to create some programs with the universities there. And for Andrei, you know, the expression in the Wired magazine, Hackerville, International Hackerville, is Râmnicu Vâlcea. And also, we have currently in the current edition of Wired magazine another article about a very smart Romanian who is participating in bounty programs, and he is winning
what? Sorry?
Bounty program. So he finds vulnerabilities in information systems, and he tells the Microsoft or Google, so he gets money back. So this kind of super smart people, how do we get them? How do we use them for the education system in Romania and give them as examples? Thank you.
Very good point. The ecosystem in Silicon Valley, in other places of IT, has 3 pillars: residents, companies, accelerators, startups, young companies, and universities. Yeah, Silicon Valley, it's Silicon Valley because it's Stanford. Be sure about this. And now, of course, our first proposition was to local university in the Cluj to have a cooperation. They are very open-minded, they are very friendly, but nothing happened in sense of practicality. They have one agenda. They want to spend money from the budget, from the European Union, to build some laboratories and separately. And we formally have a cooperation and with the university, but in reality, they are not so interested to share with us, you know, to be part of, even free of charge, to be part of our ecosystem. And I will be honest with you, this is our weak point, and we are much more advanced in our cooperation with Stanford than with Technical University in Cluj, sorry to say.
Oh. So, just about the Râmnicu Vâlcea story, you know, it's a really interesting situation, because as far as I can see, it is an ecosystem. It's a criminal ecosystem. It doesn't necessarily show, you know, the top guys, the programmers. They're only a handful at best, but the rest of it is about an illicit business that was set up, and the strong network, almost mafia-like network, that revolves around these few really intelligent people. Most of the people involved in this, most of the people in Râmnicu Vâlcea just do the grunt work. They do the actual traveling abroad to use the cards that were stolen by the exploited vulnerabilities. So if you'd like, it's not necessarily, you know, it's definitely not a good example, but it's an example of a business, and it's a, you know, it's an example of entrepreneurship. I wouldn't encourage fostering it by any means, but it's certainly, you know, it's something that is being done by a local Romanian entrepreneur. It happens to be illegal and obviously should be discouraged, but I guess it shows, if anything, it's a lesson in the character and the ability to overcome of the local community. You can use that same sentiment, that same feeling for something good, and it shows you that there is potential. But that's as far as I take it. So, yeah.
If we are to stay on schedule, we only have time for one last question.
So I have a question for Mr. Sturza. Well, first of all, as someone from Cluj, I'm happy in one way to know that 3 of my neighbors were more successful and got the bus station on our street. So who knows, maybe there is room for another bus station at Liberty Park. But my question to you is, so very often when I'm reading profiles of businessmen, and I think even in the bios in the agenda for Aspen Ideas, I often see as a merit, I suppose, quotes like successful exit. So my question to you is, what would be for you a successful exit from Liberty Park Cluj?
Of course, my profile, I'm investors. I'm not a charity foundation, and this is, we also look for exit. Of course, first of all, we build this ecosystem as a story, but behind this is a real estate project, which is now at least twice more valuable than was 2 years ago. And we see in the future the profile of future, exit with the profile of funds which are interested in this kind of real estate with ecosystem inside. There is international funds which are specialized in this kind of things which are not just square meters, but also what is inside, what kind of business is inside. And this kind of project, they are much more higher in pricing in the real estate market.
Well, thank you very much for such an interesting panel. We started to talk about digital skills and ended up with how to exit an ecosystem. And we do hope to continue this conversation at next year's Aspen Ideas Festival.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.